Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ajay Patel Show. My name is Ajay Patel, and we are on episode 47. We're getting there. We're getting there. I have a special treat for episode 50, a special guest, one of the most special guests, I guess to say. I've been watching Trump so much, I've been started talking to him. The most special guest, the specialist of all. First week at work. It's different. Like you go through these ups and these slumps, and there's nothing you can do, right? You literally have to just keep going. You get sleepy post lunch. You're like, oh shit, let me go have another coffee. Okay, time to drive to work. Oh, like, am I leaving too early? I don't want people to think that, like I'm not clocking my proper hours. But I did get here early, but no one saw that. A lot of strange dynamics goes into like the first week or so. I feel like I'm good so far. A lot of conversations being had. You're meeting a lot of people, and there's almost this expectation where it's like, hey, like we have no idea who you are. And some people have been there for a couple months, so that kind of makes you feel a little bit more like, okay, like this person's already up to speed in a couple months. I feel like I could get there. And then people that have been there 10 plus years where it's like, oh, whoa, holy shit. People tend to be lifers at some companies. And I get it, right? When you find a good spot and everything's working out, right? You got your health care, you got good paternal leave, good maternal leave. Work's not too far from home. You can go home as you need. You have a good repertoire with not a repertoire, what would it be? A good relationship with your manager, so you can just take time off as you need. It always shocks me how kind of our generation is so job hoppy, where it's like, yo, every 2 years, if you're not moving up, you got to move on to the next role. And it's like, yo, like you start with a brand new identity in some roles. From my first job to my second job, and I'm really treading waters of this becoming some, professional job hunting podcast. So I promise I won't stay on this for too long. But every 2 years is something wild. Like, how do you even start to grow a relationship, right? We just saw this story in the news of the Nike CEO stepping down, and we'll get into that in a second. But when you're a lifer at a company, more than likely, you end up moving up, right? It's just a matter of time. Now, our impatient ass generation, where we're like, oh shit, no, I got to get a raise next year. I got to get another raise. Oh, I see all these other people in my circle getting raises and moving up. I got to do that the same. And not oftentimes, same companies, same industries work on that same pace. The first company I worked for was a aerospace defense company, and they move at a slow pace, right? You move up if you've been there for 2 years, if you've been there for 5 years. It doesn't matter if you've been there for 3 years and then, you were really killing it. They don't move you up, right? It's very tenure based. I then moved to another company where I didn't move at all. I was just in the same spot for 4 years. And, a lot of that has to do with, I really wasn't doing much. It was hard to be motivated in there. I was working from home. You don't really have that kind of face-to-face contact. Being back in the office this past week, it felt like, oh, this is a job. I've completely forgot what this is like, where you're waking up in the morning. You're not thinking, right? You're not being like, 15 more minutes. You know what? I'll skip the workout. I'll just do this later. You literally have to wake up. You have to wake up and go to work. It doesn't matter if you're tired, if I could use another hour. It doesn't matter. You wake up, you go to the bathroom, brush your teeth, shower. Hopefully your clothes are ironed the night before. Maybe you have a little breakfast. The corporate diet is pretty bad in itself, right? Just drinking a cup of coffee on an empty stomach, and then later just figuring out having a big lunch, and then you're in a slump. Then you go home, have dinner, you're snacking throughout the day. But it's the beauty in it. The time invested in it, I really do think pays off. I truly do urge people that when they first start off their career, don't be remote. Unless you're gaming the system and you have like 4 jobs, right? Then, you're remote for all of them. Cool. Do your thing. But if you're truly in this game to kind of, oh, you know what, I really want to move up in this company, I think it's much harder to do that in a remote world. Everyone's talking about this whole Amazon thing. Oh my gosh, 5 days back in the office, how horrible. We have this hybrid model. I feel like this was kind of expected. I think the 5 days a week is a little bit, on the extreme end. But that's what companies like that can do, where they can say, hey, you know what? We're going to require everyone to be back in the office 5 days a week. What do you feel like the attrition is after that? Do a lot of people leave? Do a lot of people just find different jobs? Do you fight the system and then you have this kind of next 3 to 4, 5, 6 months of dealing with people that aren't coming into the office? Because it's not like it's Amazon dealing with that, right? It's certain managers being like, okay, I have to delegate to my team that they're in office 5 days a week. My manager is going to delegate that from me. Delegate? Assign that? I don't know. But you know what I'm saying. Where this problem affects every single people leader, individual contributors as well. And honestly, it's a very slick way to get people to just quit. Instead of being in the news for laying off 10 to 20, 30% of my workforce, instead, I'm just going to make this new rule. I'm going to find a little way around it and say, hey, you know what? Everyone has to come back into the office 5 days a week, mandatory. It was 3, but you know what? It's 5. We believe that the lack of cohesion between people and the lack of new ideas, the collaboration aspect, that's what really grew this company from where it was. And that's what we need to bring back into the bloodstream. It's storytelling. They can do something like that. And then next thing you know, not half, right? Like, what do we really think is going to happen? Do people actually quit? Do they just suck it up and go back into the office? It's tough, especially people with, kids. Kids is the main thing that I've stressed on, where you have to have a very flexible, not have to have, right? But it helps having a flexible schedule when dealing with that. A lot of things I've been seeing on LinkedIn, and I don't know why, but maybe it's just muscle memory now. I click on LinkedIn like it's Instagram, and I'm going through the feed, reading people's stuff. A lot of people have talked about how they've traveled the world so much and how they've gotten this opportunity to do so many more things because of the remote, just remote world, right? The remote flexibility, the remote freedom. People are saying they've gone to different countries, they've eaten different cuisines, they've hiked different mountains. And it is true. You can do a lot more things when you're remote. I did a whole bunch of travel. And it's convenient just being able to pop open your laptop and do work just like that. Do I think that's sustainable? Probably not, especially with the dollar amount that you earn from American companies for American jobs, especially whether it's in tech, a lot of things that can be done remote, produce normally a decent amount of income. That world is slowly coming back to where it was, right? Companies have these expensive leases at a lot of buildings. They got to fill this space in. Normally for them, it's a tax write-off for the amount lost from having that company lease. So of course, hey, let me just make this rule to have people back in the office. It's a good thing and a bad thing. But going back to me more specifically, where I enjoyed it. I did enjoy being back into an office, having a desk. Oh, you just connect your USB-C. Oh, I have 2 monitors. Oh, can I request a mouse? Oh, okay. Let me go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom again. Oh, how do I reserve that room? Oh, is there anywhere nice to eat around here for lunch? Such corporate stuff you forget about. Even the personalities. When I met a handful of people this week where I was almost caught off guard about how nice everyone was. Like, I just wasn't used to it. I don't remember the last time I've met this many new people in which I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to have to continue to know this person's name, talk to them, establish a working relationship with them. And at some companies, it goes past that working relationship where it's like, oh, snap, we're actually friends outside of this, right? Maybe we're grabbing a drink afterwards. Maybe we're doing things externally where it's on a Saturday or Sunday. And you kind of see all of these relationships and things that you're going to have to kind of mold into. And it's twofold, right? At one part of it, it's like, I'm not eager to meet a bunch of new people and whatnot, but I also know the benefit of the work side of it. Where if you can establish these relationships, it's very easy and it makes work a lot more smooth. The ride becomes much more smooth. Now, enough corporate talk. Let's get into our first story, which we kind of mentioned a little bit in our corporate talk, which was the Nike CEO steps down. Now, Nike in itself, let's take a quick little coffee sip here and then we'll hop into that. Nike names Elliott Hill as CEO, replacing John Donahoe. New CEO in place for Nike. Now, let's be real, right? We all got some Nike. That's a brand that's been part of our life since the start. And Nike used to be this thing, right? I don't know what it was like before my time, right? I'm sure there was brands like Converse, Adidas, maybe Puma leading that charge of being this luxurious sportswear brand. Where if you're wearing this, not only are you fit, but you're also hot. And that's what Nike was. When I started growing up, if you wore anything other than Nike, people would, take a second look at your stuff. Adidas, people would let that go by. But when, those Big Bens came around, those Starburys, the Shaq, and these are a lot of shoes that I wore because they were affordable shoes. We'd go buy them from Payless, whatever store that sold Big Bens and Starburys. These are shoes I wore, and boy, did I get flamed for that shit. And then you get some Nikes. Ooh, you get some Nikes, and then you get some socks. Oh shit, maybe I should put the black socks under my white socks and then have that little bit of black showing on top of the white socks. Ooh, now I'm double socking. Okay, next comes the Elite socks. Ooh, shit, I gotta have every single colorway of these. Nike was that brand. And then you stack on top of it. Now I got the windbreaker jacket. Now I got the sweats. Now I got this Nike hoodie. I got this Nike dry fit. I got this Nike tank, Nike shoes, Nike shirt, Nike socks. Everything was Nike, Nike bag. That's what Nike was. And then what I've noticed is since that, right, let's call that middle school, high school, 2009 to 2013, even a little bit into my college years, where Nike was the superior guy. And then, I feel like the emergence of these actual sexy and fit brands came, such as Lululemon, Alo Yoga. How do these brands become that identity? Probably through just, people like Kendall Jenner, honestly, where they just market a certain type of way. Instead of having all these super fit athletes and, spectacular talents of all time, instead of having Kobe, Jordan, all these people represent the Nike brand. Instead, I'm going to get this supermodel to represent our brand. And that's what we'll be known as. The rest will gravitate from there. Wearing Nike now, you almost feel, especially in LA, wearing Nike now, you feel like you're wearing some off-brand shit. And it's like, I thought this brand was fine. And I'm sure it's, half the stuff that's just in my head where I'm just overthinking the situation. But when you see someone with the Nike fit on, when was the last time you thought, oh, nice fit? When you see that Lulu set, when you see that Alo set, and a bunch of more, right? Where it's like active, shit, I can't even think of any of the other ones. I'm sure a lot of the luxury retailers have created their own sets. This is where it's at now. You see people wearing that screams, oh shit, style, money, sex appeal. Those are these new brands. Nike has definitely taken a turn, right? You can look at it, whether it's in the stock, just the general feeling, what people are wearing, how people are wearing it. And then you also see it in the kind of, trying to be sensitive about how I say this, the income brackets, right? You see a certain demographic wearing Nike and then the other demographic wearing Lululemon. I'm not even going to lie to you. I'm trying to make that jump from Nike to Lululemon. I've bought a couple of Lululemon things. I like the tank top. I like some of the compression shorts. I even have a backpack. And honestly, I've started to fall in love with that brand. Where when I'm wearing it, it's like, oh, okay, this fits good. I know that if it messes up or shrinks, I can go to the store and get it replaced. So I have that convenience factor. Sure, it costs more, but also I just feel more superior. I might just have to gravitate towards this full time. Nike's sales have weakened recently, and its stock is down about 24% year to date in its most recent quarter, which ended on May 31st. The company reported a 2% revenue decline, Donahoe said, which is Donahoe's the previous CEO, said at the time the company is approaching its near-term challenges head on while making continued progress in the areas that matter most to the Nike's future. Yeah, I don't know. In February, the company based in Beaverton, Oregon, announced it was cutting 2% of its global workforce, or a little over 1,600 jobs, aiming to cut costs and reinvest into savings. Yeah, that's just what all companies are doing, right? They're cutting down people and trying to be just as efficient. Because things slow down. The growth never stays at the same rate. But companies don't see that, right? They don't know when they're about to cap out. And I feel like Nike has reached that part of the curve where they can't pass that ceiling. Something else has to happen, right? Something else has to reinvigorate this brand. But what do? Apparel's, okay, cool. Outside of apparel, you have the best celebrity, like the best foundation of celebrities behind the brand. Okay, that's not doing anything. Now I have all these competitors that are seen as a luxury good over mine. I'm just a basic sportswear brand now. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure Nike still has the most money on hand compared to any of these brands, right? They're still technically probably a top brand. But, right, they got to keep going up or they're going down. So this whole thing is so interesting. And then in addition to that, the new person that has been named CEO, Elliot Hill, the dude started as an intern at at Nike. He was an intern. And then if you go, I've seen some screenshots of his job profile on LinkedIn where it's just job after job after job. This dude slowly moved up. And then he became the CEO. He became the CEO from being an intern. That's some legendary shit. I guarantee you he wasn't surfing in Bali, hiking mountains, visiting different countries while he was working. That fool was in the lab. That fool was grinding 30 something years at the same company to lead you to be the CEO. Now, look, I'm not saying you need to be the CEO of the company you work at. But if you're really trying to move up, this is what I mean by sticking to the same company sometimes helps with that mission. Overall, for the Nike brand, I don't know. Like I just don't. I don't see where this goes. Do I think there's room for, the stock to jump back to where it was? Sure. Right. With sales, with maybe more sports events and different sponsorships, they can get back onto that peak. But how do you turn Nike into this luxury brand where you're seen as, more sexier than Lululemon, Aloe and stuff? I think you have to get Kendall Jenner. And that's wild. We're going to hop off of this real quick, but it is wild that like a supermodel. Is she labeled as a supermodel? Whatever. That's how much influence someone has over an entire brand and almost industry. Let's go ahead and talk about it. P. Diddy. Sean Combs. P. Diddy. Now, look, obviously this dude's been in the news a lot leading up to this. A lot of speculation. But now, bro, it's wild. The music mogul was charged with racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. He faces a minimum of 15 years behind bars and a maximum sentence of life in prison if found guilty. While the high-profile case has sparked responses from 50 Cent, Aubrey O'Day, Kesha, Mary J. Blige, and more others who have been tied to Combs in the past, J-Lo, Naomi Campbell, Ashton Kutcher, and Jay-Z, none of whom are implicated in the criminal case, have been notably quiet. Because that's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to talk when this shit happens. You're not supposed to be like, oh, hey, I kind of knew what was going on in the house. You know, if one of your friends was engaging in some shit like this, I feel like you would know. Especially if it's like, like one of your boys, someone that you're working with on a regular, something's going on. There's no way this dude was running, an entire sex trafficking ring for 15 years by himself. Also producing music, also throwing all these mansion parties, networking, having Ciroc on the side. There's only so many hours in the day before you can call bullshit, where it's like someone is helping you with this. But, as far as the tagline goes, right, what makes this story popular, what carries weight and kind of will push maybe like a jury, maybe push the legal system to move forward is the fact that it's this person, this notable person with notoriety. Is that the same thing as saying that someone's notable? Anyways, this person that's a big name carries the story. And people get so upset. Where it's like, why isn't Jay-Z saying anything? This happens with every single thing. People want celebrities to comment on everything, whether it's politics, whether it's, some type of story in the news, some type of police brutality thing. Maybe an earthquake happened. Maybe a tsunami hit a country. Oh, why didn't Jay-Z say anything? What the fuck is he going to do? What do you think comes out of this? Where he's like, yeah, you know what? He was sex trafficking. He asked me one time if I wanted to get into it. I said, no, thank you, Puff Daddy. No one's going to admit to that. No one's going to kind of, what's it called? When you implicate yourself in the crime. That shit always confuses me. This dude, look, a lot of stories have come out now, a lot of TikToks. So that, this is how I consume news. Where everyone's snitching on him now. Oh, you know what? He did kind of rub me the wrong way when he asked me if I wanted to go shopping with him and stuff. And then on TikTok, it's become this whole this joke meme culture about the 1,000 bottles of baby oil, which if you read one of these stories or just kind of hop online and search for it, you'll see that there was somewhere in some statement that this egregious amount of baby oil that Sean Puffy Combs was requesting. And it's weird, bro. Like, I get it. Pain, comedy does come from pain. Comedy doesn't only come from pain, but it's a good source of it. And it comes from a lot of discomfort, right? The uncomfortable stuff produces good humor. When times are going really shitty, a good joke about the matter does help. But my issue is like when things like this happen and it goes straight to the joking stage, right? It doesn't even go into like oh, we need justice stage. Like, let's get this dude locked up. Let's make sure, everything's airtight. Whether this goes to court or doesn't go to court, like, we got him. It's done. It's finished. And then let's roll out the jokes. But on TikTok, where, like, there's a whole bunch of memes about this 1,000 bottles of baby oil. And I was like, there has to be such a large percentage of people out there that just see that and then don't know anything else about the story. And then think, oh, maybe he was just freaky. Maybe he just liked baby oil. Nobody likes that much baby oil. I really don't remember the last time I used baby oil. Truly. Maybe I'm behind the curve. That much baby oil. And people joke about it. And it's like, yo, this dude was legitimately sex trafficking. Under the radar? He lives in the Hollywood Hills. It's not like he's a, figure behind the scenes. When that happens, sometimes I'm not surprised, right? Like when a lot of this Harvey Weinstein stuff was happening and things were happening behind the scenes. Oh, he was doing this to people behind the scenes. And then people would get parts in the public eye. Oh, we see that actress in the movie. We see that actor in the movie. But we didn't see how they got to be in that part. I didn't even know who Harvey Weinstein was until all that news came out in 2019, 2018, 2019. Everybody knows P. Diddy. He's been one of the most prominent hip hop figures since I was a kid. I didn't really know much of his music and all that stuff, but you knew who he was, right? You knew Making the Band. If you watched any MTV, BET, you knew who this dude was. He was one of those dudes that were breaking through to that billionaire mark, right? There's a very few from the hip hop community that make it to that tier, right? Notable Jay-Z, Dr. Dre. I'm sure Drake's up there. LeBron. I don't know where Bill Cosby was before his nasty ass got caught. And then P. Diddy. And it makes you think like, bro, what? There's something about a level of wealth and a level of power that makes you do some wild shit. Makes you do some wild shit where people see this, stuff like this. And it's like, there's no way that's true. There's no way he was doing that. And what the fuck do I know? I don't, look, lock his ass up. I do not care. And sometimes I do kind of, I'm a skeptic and like, okay, you lock him up. He's going to go to some nice jail. He's going to get out. I'm not a big believer in the justice system, right? Where it's like, okay, like the crime fits, the punishment fits the crime. Overall, I feel like people are just kind of tired of this shit. Like it doesn't become a surprising thing when someone's nasty ass gets caught. Like if tomorrow there was some Jay-Z rumors. Maybe not Jay-Z because it's like, oh, like how could Beyonce do that? She's our queen. But if Drake, Kendrick Lamar, Lil Wayne was accused of some wild shit, and I don't even think, when does the attention come? Does the how did he get caught now versus 15 years of this shit? I truly do wonder if it's a thing of biting more than you can chew. To throw a little jargon in there, where at what point do they start flying a little too high and then those wings get clipped? Or you start, treading in waters that people don't really want you in. So then they're like, all right, you know what? Let's get his ass out of here. Right? That's the conspiracy behind the evil cabal at the top. But there's something behind it. Lock his nasty ass up. I'm all for locking up all these dudes doing some nasty shit. It also made me wonder, there's not a lot of nasty women characters. This week is just going to be a little bit more shorter than the other weeks. I thought I'd, hop on, grab a couple stories that have been circulating through my news feed and talk about them. I'm trying to figure out a couple of things for the future of the podcast as far as having a social media manager, because not gonna lie, I just don't see myself posting more regularly, posting on my story with the links to the store, the episodes and whatnot, because this has to grow somehow. I won't be doing this forever at this, level. This has to grow, or, it has to die. It's one or the other. And I'm giving it, let's say, 100 episodes before I'm like, you know what? I'm truly done. Because this hasn't gone anywhere. But I do have to start making some of these changes where it's, if I'm not going to take the time to post on social media and do, let's say, certain editing, making certain clips and all that stuff, then I need to find someone that does that. So I've been on Fiverr kind of searching around for it. If anyone listening to this knows of anyone or knows of a different service, please feel free to let me know. You can either leave it in a comment, text me. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I appreciate you guys for joining me. I will see you guys next week. Have a good week. Eat something healthy. Eat something unhealthy. Don't do drugs. Stay in school. My name is Ajay Patel. I've been told that everyone gets upset when I say my name has been Ajay Patel, but the past tense works with the end of the episode because it has been, I guess, it's not like I'm not Ajay Patel anymore, but my name has been Ajay Patel, and it still is Ajay Patel. I'll see you next week, and goodbye.